Oh, yes. I thoroughly enjoy interviews. I've been having such a blast. There was something that happened to me recently. Um, Obviously, me having my son changed my life dramatically, but recently I've been trying to figure life out, It's been doing a lot of introspection. And a while back, I discovered a musician named Akira The Don from Normal World. He actually was a guest and did a musical appearance. It was an awesome episode if you are a fan of Normal World. Well, it was about a month ago, maybe a couple months ago. I'm not exactly sure when, but he released a new album. And for some reason, YouTube was like, you need to listen to this. And I did. I needed to listen to it. And I was profoundly washed over by what is called Meaning Wave. And I am really hyped to have the one and only Akira the Don here tonight. Welcome. How are you
Boom!
doing, sir? Boom!
What a great intro. That is great. I will sample that and put it on a mixtape. That is what's going to happen now. That will now happen. That's what happens when people talk about me. Even if they don't talk about me, I sample them. But if they do talk about me, I definitely sample them.
You know what? That wasn't my intention, but that's really cool. And then I'll sample you sampling me.
Yeah.
And we'll have a sample off. I've never actually sampled anything because I'm just an acoustic live musician. Like that's the extent of like where I'm at. I tried recording and I'm just the worst at it.
Yeah, so you'll be fine when the particularly violent sunspot activity wipes out every hard drive and electronic device on the planet.
Right.
You'll be the world's number one musician. You'll be the only one who can still play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It is, I do want to talk to you about that, the changing musical world. I don't know. I know that there's like pockets of local artists that are really trying to push like actual music and going out and actually playing. So I know it exists. I've seen a few bands. What are you giggling about?
Yeah, it's just funny that it's occurring. I saw my mum recently, and she was telling me about how she went to, like, I don't know what you call them in the USA, like a fair or a fete, like a thing where there's like stalls and people buy and sell stuff, and like that you can. There's a jar, and you guess how much candy's in the jar, and like there'll always be like a band playing, and the band is kids from school, and we had them when I was little, and she was saying that they're back, and she was really happy, and my niece was there. And she's like a little hippie chick, and she was there with a gang of other little hippie chicks. And then there was like gangs of little goth girls and gangs of little like normie towny girls. And my mum was so happy because it was just like it was when she was a girl. And just like when she was a girl, there was a band playing on the back of a truck with all instruments, and they were really bad, and it was really charming. And they were doing Nirvana covers, I believe she said.
Okay, I love that.
That exists. It exists now. It was gone for a little while, but it was purely a technological thing. I mean, as far as I could tell anyway, I've talked about this before, but the 808 kit, the drum kit that you've been hearing in popular music for the past sort of 15 years, was the reason it was so popular and the reason it hung around so long. It was on those early like Lex Luger records, those Waka Flocka Flame records, when, basically the whole trap period. And the reason that drum kit was so prevalent was because it sounded good coming out of a phone, right? So phones became the primary way people were listening to music, whether it was on buses, whether it's at the beach, whatever it was, right? So music had to sound as good coming out the phone as it did coming out of a decent sound system. It's a weird irony. We live in the future, but people have worse sound systems than they did in the 70s. People used to have like nice speakers, hi-fis and stuff. Nowadays, people are listening to music out these little crunchy Bluetooth things, right? So the drum kit, that 808 trap kit, the harshness of the snare and the distorted sort of like large nature of the sub bass still sounded good coming out of a phone. But if you were to listen to any music made before sort of 2010 on a phone of that era, the whole bottom end wouldn't come through. So if you're listening to 70s music, 80s music, 90s music, you couldn't really hear the kick drum, you couldn't hear the bass. So it was my contention at the time that would be the case until phones started, their speaker systems were good enough that they could replicate low end. And we got to that point a couple of years ago, and low, so quote unquote, real music is returning. That's one of the things it's not just that, but that's one thing that's happening.
I think that we kind of like the internet came around and a lot of human society kind of got homogenized. I was talking about this on Tuesday with my guest, about how fashion hasn't changed since the early aughts. It was just there was this moment where time kind of started staying still. He said he started watching The Office, and the first season of The Office, people dress. It was from 2005,
Mm-hmm.
and it's as if it could be today, like the way that they're dressed. And I feel like a lot of music, a lot of things from that era have just kind of persisted, and something's changing in the past year or two, maybe a little bit more. I mean, COVID, I feel a lot of people woke up because they weren't able to go to work. Their daily grind got disrupted. So suddenly they're like, "Oh, well, now what do I do?" And they started like diverting from their normal, turn and burn like daily life that they were just, lemmings almost. And
They
they
disrupted
woke
the
up.
pattern. It's why
Yeah,
crows throw
exactly.
themselves. Crows throw themselves down roofs.
Really? What do you mean?
Yeah. Crows throw themselves down
Crows.
roofs. Crows do this thing where once in a while they'll disrupt their pattern by doing
Yeah.
something weird like chucking themselves down roofs. This is to do that. This is to.
I gotta try that sometime.
Yeah, it's pattern disruption, right? So you get yourself in a loop, and until that loop is disrupted, you'll just go deeper and deeper into that loop. You get more and more ingrained into it, and life will zip by and fast forward, and then you'll be dead, and you wonder what the fuck happened. So you have to be
Right.
constantly disrupting your habit loops. Everything you do repeatedly becomes a habit loop, and then when you've done it enough times, your brain fast forwards through it because it's already done it a bunch of times, right? So this is when people work at the same place and they drive there every day. They'll suddenly have this weird thing like, wait, I'm at work already. How did I even get here?
Wow.
Right? And that thing where people feel like life is speeding up and getting faster. It's purely that. It's because more and more of your life is turned into these habit loops. So your brain fast forwards through it, or your consciousness fast forwards through it because it's done it. That's why those early summers when you were a kid, they went on forever, right?
Right.
They went on forever because it was all new stuff. It was all new experiences. So you're constantly getting disrupted and you're constantly stopping and paying attention. And I had this experience when I had my son. In the first few years, and continually, but particularly in the first few years, life really slowed down because I was seeing the world through his eyes.
Yeah.
So he was having all these new experiences, like a bush. A bush. He's never seen a bush before, right? That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoa, a bird. Shit like that. So you slow down with the child, and you start to your patterns get disrupted in that manner, right? And life slows down again. That's why it's a good idea to like move, or like rearrange your room, or like there's various things you can do to disrupt those loops. And you should also check in on them. I do this regularly. I have a habit audit, and I just check if I don't have any weird habits that have seeped in that are not serving me.
A habit audit. I like the sound of that. Where
Well, it's useful,
just
right?
kind of
'Cause
analyze, your habits
you
from an
should,
objective standpoint.
because that's what your life is made up of. And you're the whole sort of idea of discipline and what have you, right? Discipline. You have something you want to do, so you revert, or something you want to become. So you reverse engineer how you would become that. Then you create systems that will carry you to that, right? And you enact the systems with discipline. But eventually those things turn into habits. So the habits, the discipline turns into habit, and it just carries you to where you want to go. However, new habits are constantly seeping in without you necessarily realizing that could be deviating you from that path and that direction you want to go in, which is why a habit audit is super useful, because you'll be like, oh, look at that. I'm suddenly eating a cookie every time I pass that cookie stand on a Wednesday. And I wondered why my abs had disappeared or whatever, right? But you might not have noticed. But you've got that cookie habit. So then all you got to do is replace it with a different habit that's useful and deliberate, and then go about your business being great.
I love that. I think a lot of people on this planet could do with that, and just analyze. Well, just self-reflection. It feels like a lot of people want to avoid it, almost because I think it's they know. that
Yeah.
like deep down they're like, I know that I don't have these. I'm not doing the right habits.
They like
And I
the
think that-
cookie. They don't want to
well,
lose the
that's
cookie.
and that's
They want
what
to keep the cookie habit.
a lot of depression spawns
Yeah.
from the knowledge that you're not doing what you should be doing to get your goals. Like
Your
I wanna go
subconscious is
there.
doing the work, right?
Yeah,
Your subconscious dictates most of your life, and your subconscious knows the truth about you. So if you're weak, if you're being weak, if you're lying to yourself and other people, if you're being a bitch, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you might be able to lie to yourself and you might be able to lie to everyone around you, but your subconscious knows, and your subconscious will treat you accordingly. And given that your subconscious dictates most of your sort of unconscious decision making, your unconscious will therefore give you the existence of what it thinks you are, which is a cretin.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm listening to one of your songs right now. We just need a beat.
Back to what you were saying about the music thing, though. Again, I remember reading Jared Lanier, who was one of the guys who invented VR, and he wrote a book. Yeah. He was talking about the early days of the internet and what have you. And he had a similar realization to, or maybe it was influenced by it, but he had a similar realization to Marshall McLuhan, who posited that for each new medium, when it comes into being, it contains the previous medium. So TV contained movies, for example, and movies contained plays and books and so on and so forth, right? So you have a new medium and it comes along, and it swallows everything up inside it. And initially, that's all it's doing. It's kind of containing and showing the previous culture within its new self, and the culture is exactly. But initially the new culture. It's like with early magazines on the internet, right? They were just like scanned newspapers. They weren't using what only the internet could do, right? They were just like stick a magazine on a screen, and then you've kind of got to drag it and all this weird shit, right? It takes a while for things that could only exist within the new medium to start existing. So while that's going on, everything kind of gets cannibalized and sort of smushed up, and culture will move in a different manner. What happened with the internet thing is essentially everything that occurred before the internet, because the internet as a medium could take in everything: sound and vision, storytelling, and lies and truth and communication. Everything that came before could go into this one thing and get all mushed up. So everything became a remix of that which had happened previously. So we start doing which would naturally happen across cultures. I remember in the mid-90s in the UK, there was a kind of 80s revival going on. People wanted to go back to kind of that kind of new romantic era, already in the mid-90s. You know, people are always trying to revive previous decades and previous fashions and what have you. But with the internet, it was happening almost instantly. So the first thing you get is all this bootleg culture and everything, right? And everyone's doing the mashups and remixing everything and sticking this in there and that in there. And that's always the instinct of people whenever there's a new bit of technology, is to take what was previously and do it in this new one. When ChatGPT came up with that new image model recently, the first thing everybody did was like, okay, this but Ghibli, this but Ghibli, this but that, right? It's what everybody always does first. So we've been in this period where technology has been so mental that the culture has been defined by the technology. So whereas you used to, in the 70s, you had a very specific and defined, you could see an image from the 70s and go, that's the 70s. The motherfucker is wearing flares. The dude is wearing glittery eyeliner or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You can even get it down to like 1977. I can. You can go, there's 1977, there's 1972. You can do it through the 80s. There's 82, there's 86. Things are different in 87 visually, right? My dad used to go to the pub with his David Bowie album under his arm.
Cool.
Right, in the 70s. That's how he would stunt. Like nowadays, it's like a few years ago, it'd have been the latest iPhone. I don't even know what it would be now. But
now you don't want to, because it'll get stolen.
Do people steal iPhones now? I feel like they're in such abundance.
In certain areas.
Yes, in certain areas. I mean, certainly, I remember when the early days of phones, you didn't want to have them out when you're walking around London, because you would definitely get jumped. Like,
is that where you're at? Are you in England?
Well, now.
Where are you located?
I'm in Mexico right now.
You're in Mexico, okay.
Yeah.
to what you were saying about the internet and how that in itself was this new medium where everything was kind of put in there. It almost feels like there was like a 1,000 buckets of water, and the water was the different things, you know, the newspapers, the movies, the literally everything, and the internet just kind of splashed it all in there. And it, for like the past 15 years, it's just been sloshing about, and like people are starting to finally go, all right, we've reached this point where now it's going to start advancing with originality, because people have remixed everything. They've already done all this stuff, and I think that's why we're kind of seeing a resurgence of original music again, and like these people that are making their own game, like even the gaming culture, like the not the AAA games are people don't give a shit about that. They're
Indie
playing
world.
like indie games because they're like, oh well, these are actual games that people are making. That's what I want to play, not some like you know, cutscene movie crap, whatever. And I'm excited about it, and it's fantastic. And that, you know, and then I hear your music, and it's just like, this is awesome. Like I you know, part of living right is finding a purpose, and I think when you are discovering such incredible words from these great philosophers and great thinkers, and you're putting it out there, I feel like that is what people need. The messages that Meaning Wave has are incredible, and I want to ask you, how much time do you spend on finding like these works from these people, or are you just, you know, have you always been interested in you know, self-improvement and the works of these philosophers and stuff?
I mean, I've always been interested in general, right? As Alan Watts said, interested people are interesting, you know, and you know this, right? Because those are the people you want to hang around. People who are interested in things find out about things, and they learn things, and they have stuff to share. They have ideas, and they, you know, they're interesting people to be around. Interested people are interesting. I've always been interested, and I always read a lot because we didn't have a telly when I was little, TV in American. So I always read a lot, and I always like listened to a lot of music and radio and radio plays and anything I could listen to and anything I'd read, you know. So that's always been there. And when I sort of was making my early rap music, I always was really I liked the skit aspect a lot, you know, like Ice Cube's Death Certificate has got all these skits, all these, like, every song has got like a minute of stuff before the song even happens, right? Whether it's like the old Ice-T albums were the same. And it wasn't just the rappers, it was like Morrissey was doing that. Manic Street Preachers were doing that. I really like the whole, you know, chopping up bits of movies and stuff like that and using it to recontextualizing that to set up a record. And when I was making my early mixtapes, I was kind of like, well, what if a whole track was that? Because there's all this cool stuff, you know. And I found very quickly that you could find rhythm in speaking, and you could find melody in speaking, and you didn't have to auto-tune it or like particularly stretch it around. It's already there. You just have to kind of find it, right? And then eke it out.
I appreciate that you don't do that, actually. You know, it really it makes the words the star. You know, because you're not altering it, you're not trying to like make it into the song. You're keeping the power of the words as powerful as they are. And I think
that's important. I think that's important. I like, you know, I've experimented over the years with different stuff, and like I have done things over the years where sometimes I would take a piece and I would chop it up and affect it and pitch it and this, that, and the other. But I found over the years of experimentation that what really worked was a combination of the speaker and just evoking that was already there. So just finding the inherent rhythm and melody and just placing it in such a fashion that it becomes obvious. And then if it's adding my own vocals as melody and adding choruses and what have you. So then it's kind of like in the early 90s when Method Man had started doing records with Mary J. Blige or whatever, right? You kind of have more that thing going on. And yeah, it just works. And I'm constantly listening to new music, and I'm constantly reading and listening to ideas and people. I have a huge like database of things that I want to do that I could, even if I'd never listened to one new thing, that would keep me busy for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff that
What did you just look at? Was that like a whiteboard with just like a shit ton of stuff on it?
Over the other side of the room is a 4K monitor with a giant spreadsheet on it currently that I was just looking at earlier, with essentially a roadmap of things that I'm working on. And there's things that I haven't done yet that at the very beginning of Meaning Wave I was very excited to do, but I've not yet done because it's kind of a foundational, this piece goes there, then that piece goes there, then that goes there, then we'll understand this better, and so on and so forth. Like everything builds in that manner. So there's still things from when I was first laying this out in 2017 that I still haven't got to.
I love on your website the description of Meaning Wave. Let me just read this for the chat. Meaning Wave is an ongoing musical epic story and psychotechnology developed by Akira The Don with the aim of helping listeners to achieve their potential in this lifetime. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's true.
And I feel that. Yeah, you're right. I agree. And you released what I forget the name of the album that you dropped it like a couple. It was Goddard.
The Goddard one, yes, dope thing.
Yeah. And I was listening to it. My wife walked in and she was like, "Hey, well, what's this? This is cool." And I'm like, "Oh, you gotta listen to it." And I just went right back to the beginning and I just hit play. And she just sat here with me for I think it's like, almost an hour. We just sat here and we were just listening, and she was like, "That was awesome." And now she listens to your music now on her, when she's driving, and she really appreciates it, because I think people don't realize how much power that they have over their own lives. People love to think, "Oh man, like I'm just unlucky and this and that." And it's like, you have no idea the power of your mind. And I think that's Meaning Wave really needs to be in more people's headphones. Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's really crazy, because you know how rare it is for people to just sit down and listen to music. By the way,
so rare.
Mostly people are doing other things.
Records.
Yeah. That's what you do with a record.
Albums were made. They were designed to like listen to the whole thing, and they were tried to be cohesive, and that's why that album especially spoke to me, and I feel like it's one of those. I would love that on vinyl. Yeah,
we will be.
Awesome.
There's with the Jocko records. We were doing some crowdfunding campaigns to get some records done, and then there were some issues with the distributor, and the warehouse shut down, and all sorts of stupid stuff, which made everything take longer than it should have. But we're nearly done with the Jocko records. They've been pressed, or like one of them. There's two. Anyway, that will be nearly done. So when that's done, we can do some more vinyl stuff.
Nice.
Vinyl is very difficult to do, but it's very worthwhile because it's such a wonderful thing to have. It
really is.
I think we've put about maybe 2 watts. We've got 6 records on vinyl so far, and there's like 100 albums. So there's quite a lot to do.
Are they
and
still
I keep
available?
putting out new ones. Was it?
Are they still available?
Yeah, they're on the website on meaningwave.com.
Okay. Yeah.
We're about to add the Marcus Aurelius one. Hey,
yeah, I haven't listened to the Marcus Aurelius one. I was stumbling around the website looking at the merch. I was like, this merch is freaking dope. And I just see like this dope picture of Marcus Aurelius, like half of his face is kind of blended out, and I'm like, oh, that's a mean shirt. Like I didn't.
That was me. Was that this one? Was that one?
Yeah. Yeah. Is that your face?
Yeah, that was my face. Where's the mask?
That's a dope shirt though.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that's cool.
We had masks made for the record, so you can get these Marcus Aurelius masks.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Go swag down the supermarket.
Epic, man. How long have you been making music? It feels like you've been making music for decades.
Yeah, like full time since 2004, I think it was.
Wow. Okay.
But like I've been, since I was like 6 or 7 or something, I used to do weird shit with tapes. I would copy one tape to another tape, and then pull the tape out and chop a bit of it off, and then stick it back with sellotape, and or do all this stuff to like make loops and stuff like that. Because that's what I had, And the tape machines in those days, you could record like audio, local audio, you didn't need to plug something into them, right? They had microphones in them. You remember those ones?
I
There were
mean,
these cool things. They had like a handle.
that's how I made my mixtapes when I was a kid. I actually
Yeah.
had the Home Alone Walkman thing. You know, I had one of those, and
Yeah,
I would just
exactly.
record off
Yeah.
the radio that was playing
Yeah.
the songs that I liked.
I used to sit
Yeah.
up with like, I'd have the radio thing. You'd have the two buttons to record, play and record for some reason.
Right.
And I used
Yeah,
to
yeah.
stick tape on those to make it so that it'd be easier to go down. And I'd be listening to the chart show, waiting for my favorite song to come on so I could record it and make
And
my
I'd get
mixtape.
so mad at the DJ, like, stop talking over the
Yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah.
Like, you're ruining the beginning.
Yeah,
But then
exactly.
the recording that I have of the song, I would then like miss the DJ voice because that was in the recording that I had, you know?
Yeah, that was
it's like you adding stuff, you know, the skit. It's almost like part of it, you
That's
know?
exactly what it is, and it's this issue that like the way a record sounds the first time we hear it will invariably be the way that we love it.
Yeah,
which is why
right.
I don't play in progress music and release snippets and stuff like that because you see,
I saw your post about that. I want to
It's a
talk.
big-
I'm glad you brought that up. 'Cause I wanna talk
yeah,
about
it's
that.
ruinous. It's one of these major things in life that nobody realizes. It's like
Yeah.
if Dave Blunt's like I heard most of his last album in like really badly recorded studio sessions with an iPhone type thing, and I was like, wow, this song's great. And then this song comes out and somehow it's not as good as that crappy version. And
Yeah.
something has changed, and you missed the thing that's been changed, and it's like, and it was always that way. That was the issue with all
Maybe
these
it's like
Kanye records.
CRTVs. The CRTVs, you know, they would blend 8-bit and it would look good on a
I got
CRTV,
4 of them right there. I have
right? And then nowadays you
yeah.
look like 8-bit and it's just blocky, and it's like
that's not what it was.
That's not what an 8-bit is. It was supposed to be blended.
It
So
had
it's
the light
almost probably what
being
happened
shot
with that
through it.
iPhone.
It's
You know,
what, that's
you
what
kinda
happens with all these things. Well,
blended
however you
it,
first
maybe.
hear it, it's just how you first hear it. I used to
know.
jump trains when I was a kid, and I'd go like 6 hours north to like a different country. I was in Wales at that
Cool.
point. I'd go like England.
Okay.
And like
Wow.
to go to a record fair to get like a bootleg of a Oasis live recording or a Smiths live recording or something, right?
Cool.
And they'd play
Awesome.
sometimes records that weren't out yet. And then when the studio version came out, it'd be like, well, that's wrong. I remember when Live Forever came out, and I'd already heard Live Forever as a live version. And then the live version, he sings this different harmony that is quite loud, and you can't hear it in the original. And so, sorry, in the studio version. So the studio version just kind of sucked
Yeah.
because it was not that. And this is a weird little thing with our brains. We have this kind of preference to the way a thing was when we first fell in love with it. And it's not just music,
Yeah.
it's lots of things that applies to.
Yeah, probably everything, right? I mean, that's the human impressions are huge. First impressions, right? And there's a reason for that.
Well, music in
And-
itself, right? People think that music was better when they were kids.
That's a good point.
Because that's when they first heard it, and it's when they were
Right.
doing all this cool stuff. They're associating, oh, the best music
Right.
just so happened to be made when I first like snogged a girl round the back of
Right.
a thing. You know what I mean? That's when music was
15
good.
to 20, 15
When
to
I was
25
snogging, yeah.
for the rest of your
When I was
life.
smooching, that's when music was really good, and everybody thinks that. And you look at
Yeah.
YouTube comments, it's always the same. I remember people hating on Little B when Little B came out, and I left a comment on one video being like, "In 10 years, there'll be a bunch of people here saying, oh, this was real music. Music now it sucks," and that's exactly what happened. And you can go back and look at all those, right? It's just exactly it's what humans do.
Yeah,
They're wonderful.
That's true. Well, as a live musician, I have never actually recorded any of my music. I did once, and I have an album, but I hate it. I hate it so much because like I feel like I'm actually a victim of that for my own music, right? Because I wrote a song and then like I'll play it, and then like when I finally got to recording it, I also am not hearing the, you know, when you sing or even speak, you know, you're hearing the vibration of your own vocals, right? So that's a part of it. And I don't know, man. My audience, they know my songs, and I'm like, if I read that, and I'm like, shit. So like when I have been working on recording, partly inspired by Meaning Wave, and you know, I've been recording some of the stuff, and I read that post, and I'm like, shit, are my audience, like the people that are here right now, especially on Friday nights. Friday nights I jam every single Friday night for the past 5 years. I sing and play my music every Friday, you know, and I'm like, are the people that are going to want my album gonna be disappointed because it's not what they first heard live?
Yeah, kind of in a way, but like,
Yeah.
there's no getting away from that. And they have those very first people. They have their very favorite. I have this with my like. I will literally have a record that I will play in the concerts of the live stream, and it's recorded, and then it'll come out, and someone will be like, "Oh, I preferred it when it was on the stream," and it's like, it's exactly the same. That's literally the same, but it's just a contextualization of it being in this different thing. So that's always going to be the way. One thing I think I said in that post, I realized it does create conversation. The whole Kanye thing when he was live streaming the creation of the WW3/Cuck record that won't ever come out. But like, the very first version of Heil Hitler versus like the third or the fifth, and like people would always, I really liked it when there were bells in it. Oh, it was really good when there was just that like pad. Oh, I don't like this shouting now. Da 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 da. But it means there's conversation. There's conversation, sure. And it's around the actual music, which is actually quite rare. So people, the people that care about the music care enough to talk about it. And if they want that original version, it should still exist somewhere, and so on and so forth. So I won't worry about it. Chat. From your point of view, I have this. So when I'm working on a record, I found early on, you make a demo and then you go into a studio to do the proper version, which was the old way of doing things. The proper version would always be lacking something that the demo had, right? And that's why people release demos and da-da-da-da. And you're like, oh yeah, Kurt's vocal was way more abrasive and soulful in that demo than the final version. Oftentimes when you go into...
probably had that harmony from, I don't know if it was the Smiths or Oasis.
And Live Forever, exactly. But like, so, because when you go into studio, you've got all these different people saying, do it like this and da-da-da-da, and it's just different. The way you sing in your bedroom, trying to be a bit quiet because there's neighbors, is going to be different to being in a sound-treated booth or whatever, right? So there will always be a difference. But so the way I work these days is I don't create demos at all. I just make a song and I build upon it. So the original sketch will still be in the final version, even if it's a case that that original vocal, which was not necessarily the best vocal, I'll still be incorporating that as maybe a backing vocal or something. There'll be some part of that still in there.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Shut up. I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah, I can. That's fine, though. I love dogs.
That's a beautiful Mexican dog, or maybe 3 of them.
3? What kind of dogs are they?
Like big-ass dogs. Big-ass Mexican dogs.
Big-ass
Mexican dogs. I don't know what breed they are. I don't know much about dog breeds of Mexican dogs. Like, I could describe them. Like, one of them's like big and black and leathery and sweaty, and one of them's kind of big and ginger, and one of them's big and wolf-like. Dogs are weird. They're all wolves that got genetically engineered. And
again and again and again
and again and again.
Right.
And they love us and they protect us, And
I love dogs.
I remember when I was going down some like Anunnaki conspiracy wormholes in the early days of the internet in like the late 90s, there was, I remember, some idea that we were placed here by these aliens to mine gold. Like, I think the idea was like their spaceship ran on gold, so they needed gold to get back to the other side of the universe. So they put us on this planet to dig up all the gold. We didn't know why we were digging up the gold, we were. And they gave us dogs to be our companions. And this is why in the DNA of humans and dogs, there is something that isn't in everything else, or something like that. There's a whole like conspiracy lore for man and dog having been put here together as companions.
By the Anunnaki. I've heard this story. I talk about this kind of stuff a lot, actually, on my Sunday night show, Forbidden Frontier. And I believe it was they were harvesting gold because it powered something on their planet, or they needed something to restore their atmosphere using gold or something along those lines.
The one I heard was it was the spaceship and they were kind of stuck, and it was part of the way that they powered the spaceship. So to get across to the other side of the universe, they needed a bunch of gold. But their idea of time, it's like the whole "a day into a god is 1,000 years" thing, which I think is in the Bible. I know it from a RZA song. But they're just like, oh, let's just fuck off, around the corner for a week while they do all this mining, and that for us is like 100,000 years.
Right.
I don't know.
What do you think? Do you think it's true?
That one? No.
We were placed here?
Well, of course, I mean, we were placed here, certainly, but I don't think it's like space aliens type
No.
thing. I don't know. I think a lot of this talk is trying to describe something which is indescribable. You know what I mean? Which is why I think people are kind of returning to God in a way, because what was happening with a lot of the literature, the religious literature, is describing the indescribable, right? And describing something that is infinite. Something that, like, I've said this before, but that's why we love music. Like, music is an intonation of the divine, the indescribable, that cannot be described but only experienced, right? And that's part of why we love music. Like, that it says something that
And
words
dogs.
cannot. Dogs, exactly. We love dogs because they too are an intonation of the divine in such fashion.
No, it's a good.
So I
That's a
think
good
people,
point.
after years
And
in
it
the kind
makes
of
you feel.
nihilist, atheistic desert of trying to describe the indescribable in material manners, people are realizing that didn't really work, and that we already had a system for navigating the divine that had been worked out over thousands of years. So maybe we just use that system because it was quite good, actually. I think a lot of people are starting to think that.
And they're seeing the results because of the internet. People are able to see, like, everyone's got a camera. They're seeing the godlessness and what happens when men forget about it.
Yeah, everything that Nietzsche predicted is now like in a vertical video every day, all day long, screaming at you, right? Look, yes, this is what happens when you kill God.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Essentially.
And they go, I don't know if I like that. Yeah, okay.
I wondered, I went down a rabbit hole because of my show on Sunday night with simulation theory. And by the end of it, I was like, simulation theory is very plausible, actually. And even Elon Musk, I think he said it's like...
Oh, he's on board 100%, I think. I think he thinks it's like, for it not to be the case is ludicrous. Or something along those lines. He tweeted at one point.
Yeah, he was like, the chances of us being in base reality is like 1 in some ridiculous.
It's in trillions, but it is in trillions. If you pass that whole idea out, the idea that this would be the first one to develop that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Well,
but then what is simulation theory if not just a way of just saying what was said in every other religion, but just using contemporary analogs?
Ding, ding, ding. Hold on, I got something for it.
Yeah, there you go. Nice. Good. Yeah. That's useful. I used to have one of those in my studio in Los Angeles that I called the hit bell. Whenever I wrote what I deemed to be a hit, I would hit that bell.
Yeah, this is my hotel bell. This is actually an antique from a chat. From chat. Chat got this for me.
Chat got you that.
Yeah,
shout out to chat.
Dixon bell. Shout out to chat. Chat's the shit. Yeah, they're
chat all day.
Yeah, so I realized that simulation theory, just as you said, it's the exact same thing, and I like the way that you said it. It's explaining God using contemporary language that people understand. Oh, well, it was a computer software. It's like the Matrix, and it's like, well, I mean, if that's real, then that means there's someone up there that made this, isn't there? Right?
It's the thing. Like, there's one of the early Alan Watts records I did, Dreams. He talks about the idea of God playing hide and seek with himself. And this was decades before computers and what have you. But his idea was like, his way of talking about it was like, okay, so you're God, right? And you can do anything and you can do everything. And so you do that. And it's quite fun. And you do every adventure you possibly could. You eat all the food. You bang all the hypothetically beautiful creatures that you could bang. You do everything. And eventually you get bored, right? So you start kind of creating limitations in yourself. You go, okay, I can only do this or only do that. And you create these games for yourself. And the ultimate idea of that would be to create a game where you're a creature that doesn't know it's all powerful, right? And is limited and essentially dies, right? To experience that kind of being, to have all that power taken away from you. That'd be the ultimate game if you were God. You would essentially create the human, and you would be the human, and play the game of hide and seek with yourself, and
that's fascinating.
Which is basically what simulation theory is saying. Essentially, that you create a game of being human, and it's limited, and you don't realize you're playing a game, and if you die in the game, you think you're going to die, but then actually you respawn, and so on and so forth.
I can also see it being like you mentioned earlier with your son, um, that or your child. Time slowed down, and you get to see through his eyes.
Yeah.
And I could see that also being something that God would want to do is create humans and like watch them experience the world that you create,
Well,
right?
and then watch through them. So imagine, because you'd be
True,
like, oh,
right.
imagine if I could see the world as my son is seeing it. Not just see him from the outside, but imagine if I could feel that way again. If I could experience how he's experiencing it. And it's different for him than it was for me. The world is different than it was, and so on and so forth. Imagine if I could do that. Again, so that's that idea. There's another one of those Watts songs where he talks about that idea. He says every one of us is an aperture through which the whole cosmos looks out. So each individual
Love
being.
that.
And it's one way of thinking. It's how I always thought about the way I was doing my work, which is that there are all these different ways of sort of, say you have the world, and then you have your viewpoint and understanding, but that's not enough to navigate the whole world. But there's all these other people who have existed across time who have their specific point of view and their specific vantage point, right? Mm-hmm. And we can study them. They've written, some of them have recorded videos and lectures. Some of them have written books. Marcus Aurelius wrote a book 2,000 years ago, which is still very useful and pertinent. So we can examine all these people and all their viewpoints and therefore get this 360-degree look at the thing, whatever the thing is, whichever concept it is, whatever aspect of being it is. We don't just have to be stuck with our own at this point. This is an incredible point in time. And fusing that with music, because music is this incredibly powerful delivery mechanism that, mainly got used to sell toothpaste and stuff for a long time. So I was like, well, what if I can do that? I can take all these viewpoints and fuse it with music, and then I will have this understanding, or I have a greater understanding anyway. I have a bit of that, a bit of that, a bit of that, and then I can maybe navigate this thing more easily or proficiently.
And not only navigate it yourself, but create meaning wave, which, as it's stated, is for everyone to be able to achieve that sense of sovereignty in this reality.
Well, you're not pulling the ladder up. It's like, right? You go, okay, this could work for everybody. It works for a lot of people. I get a lot, letters every day from people saying it's working. They've built businesses. They've got off heroin or whatever it is. And
that's gotta feel great.
That's a good thing. It's nice to be useful, right?
Yeah.
It's nice to be able to do what you love. To do what you love and be useful in the world is a truly magical thing. And there's the key in that. Do something you love and be useful in the world. That's a hack.
We should all be so lucky.
Yeah. Well, I think we could.
True. Yeah.
We could. Why not? This is the age of miracles and wonders. You have two YouTube play buttons behind your head.
3, actually.
You got 3. How you got 3? You got another one. Okay, 2 questions. 1, how have you got 3? 2, why don't you have 3 next to each other? Why is it in that fashion?
Okay. This one is from Timcast IRL. This was
they gave you one.
They
gave you one.
I was on the show. We hit.
And they let you have one of those. They didn't steal it off you on your way out the door.
And oh no, I wasn't gonna let them. Yeah, they gave it to me, and I was kicked off the show, but we had already hit 100K, and I already got that.
You already got your button. And they didn't send snipers around to get it back on that.
I feel like they would be more upset about the UFO this used to be on the show with me, but really? that came with me. So this one is my channel.
Yeah.
And I think I am very grateful from the Timcast IRL show was able to propel my channel easily over 100K, which is, really incredible. And then this one is for a show that I was briefly on, and it's called Side Scrollers. I'm not on it anymore, and they didn't even hit 100K. Yeah. But when they did hit 100K, the creator, Craig, reached out to me and said, hey, I do really appreciate your help and belief in us. I want to give you one of the 100K buttons. And I was like, that's freaking awesome. Thank you. And so there it is. Yeah. So these have been on my wall for a long time. And then this one I actually just recently got. And it's smaller. You can see they're smaller now. They've made them a lot smaller. So
Oh, wait, are they skimping? Really? They're skimping on
Oh, yeah.
flipping plaques
Oh.
now as well.
Dude, it's
Yo.
crazy. Like, look at the size difference. Hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I thought that was like one for like 50,000 or something.
Like what?
Wow, that's messed up. That says everything. Side scrollers
no
is
reason.
side scrollers is the guy who looks like 5 times August, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
that used to.
they could be twins, but
They're-
they're
they're-
just brothers.
I know that made me laugh for a while. I was like, wait, because I remember seeing one of those videos pop up,
Yeah.
and then I was sort of like, why is 5 times August like getting angry about video
about
games?
video games.
What the fuck is going on? Like, it baffled me for at least 27 seconds, which is a long time.
Yeah.
To be baffled. God bless. It's really nice that both of those guys are like out there being sort of prominent, sort of like contemporary culture warrior types in
True.
in various domains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
they
nice
really
when that
are.
happens.
Yeah, I like both of them for their own reasons.
Yeah,
And,
it's dope.
Yeah, they're cool, man. Those two guys. I enjoyed my time on Side Scrollers. I actually wanted to join up again, but he really wants to do an in-person show.
Yeah.
He's trying to. I think Blabs is maybe working on like living there. So like I get it. It's fine. I'm out in the middle of the woods in Sweden, doing my thing.
Oh yeah, you moved to Sweden, didn't you? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
My wife's family's all here. She's got a small family. I've got a massive family that's all over the place. So it's a lot cheaper to raise a child here also, significantly. And we have, dude, I live in a Hallmark art. I live on a river next to a beautiful forest. So I take my son on walks in the forest every day, and he's just like constantly staring up and watching the trees go by. So I want him to grow up outside of the internet, and as I did, like the internet didn't exist for me until I was 18, and then even then I didn't care. I didn't really even get on the internet until I was like 30, because I was skateboarding, I was traveling the world, doing my modeling career, and I never really cared about the internet until much later on in my life. So really just like the last 10 years. So I want that for my son. I want him to have this.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do as well.
This energy.
Like,
yeah, I know. I mean, I can't control his friends that he gets. I'm sure they're going to be and I have video games all over the place. I don't play as much as I used to, but I don't know. I'm sure he's going to find those eventually. But he likes drumming. He plays piano. A little bit.
How old is he? What's he like? I was going to say, isn't he like a baby?
9 months. Yeah, but
he's drumming, he's playing piano.
No, I'm not joking, dude. I played piano for him every single day. Every single day of his life. He's heard either piano or guitar, one of the two. And he now, he used to just do this, but now he's starting, over the past like couple weeks, he's been doing this thing where he's pressing down and doing different, like he's realizing that there's a difference between going boom and dum. The tone is different, and he's I see him thinking, and his wheels turning like this is different when I do it this way. And I'm like, how are you doing this at 9 months? I'm like, man, but my wife and I are both musicians, so I think it's in there. I think he's got the genes of music.
Oh, so you literally just said you've been playing piano for him every day, so maybe that's got something to do with it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
that will definitely have an impact.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and he sits here and I play guitar, and I've been playing a lot more music. I've written some new songs. I'm just so musically inspired because of my son, and I just love it. And then I found Meaning Wave. I'm like, man, this is what people need. Like, this is awesome. And yeah, I'm thoroughly blown away by your merch too. I got my eye on this freaking Meaning Wave hoodie that's got flowers all over it. It's fresh, dude.
We do those in velvet as well.
Velvet.
Yeah, you can get this. There's an option in the order. You can get them in velvet. You can choose velvet option. Okay. The velvet is very luxurious.
I don't think I have anything in velvet. Maybe I should
velvet is
try that.
There's the I did like a bunch of like suits. There's like the Meaning Wave Fern, which is like ferns, obviously.
I've seen the
and
ferns. Those are
there's
cool.
trousers. Yeah, there's the same. There's the cherry blossom and a rose one, and you can get all of them as hoodies and t-shirts and trousers, and you can get all of them in velvet as well. So if you want to be like one of those velour type people, I always used to like velour tracksuits and shit like that.
I was that 1972 or 1978?
Exactly. It was basically like Ghostface Killer's dad. You know what I mean? You imagine Ghostface. Right. I remember hearing Ghostface talking about him and his mum like wearing matching velour sweats or something like that. And, like that being his image of love, like his ideal of that. And,
matching velour suits.
Yeah.
We gotta bring it back,
right.
dude.
Yeah, exactly. That's in my small way. Yeah. Just contributing to the culture in these ways.
Oh yeah,
you know?
I love that. My son has these pair of pants that he can't wear yet because they're a little bit big for him, but they're these just stripy, comfortable PJ pants. And my wife had gotten them, and a couple months later, in the same store that she got those pants, I found an adult size version of them, and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna have to buy these, right? And I got them. So like now, when he achieves that whatever length it is, because they're pretty big for him, but it's gonna be freaking awesome. I love it. I'm excited. This is my first child, so I'm enjoying every minute of this.
Yeah, you continue to. My boy is he's 12 now. He's basically the same height. He's almost the same height as me. He's like there.
At 12.
Yeah, he's tall. Like I married a slightly taller woman, which is if you want to bang your jeans up in the world, you know what I mean? Like marry a slightly taller woman, and then your son will like all these selfish ass dudes out here like marrying these midgets to make themselves feel better, just cursing their bloodline to like dwarfism for eternity, right? You can't be doing that. If you care about the future, you got to be leveling up, right? So you get yourself a nice tall lady, right?
Well, and then too late. She's shorter than me. Great.
Well, there you go. Much. There you go. So I got this tall ass son, right? Mi niño es muy alto. And, he used to come to the gym with me when I was going to CrossFit classes last year. He would come at the end. And then I started going on my own and doing, anyway. I took him back to the gym on Monday, and he's coming 2 days a week now. Everyone in the gym was like, oh my God. Because he's so tall now. He's a giant now. He's basically the same size.
Because he shot up.
He's so big. But so now he can just wear all my clothes, and we can just go out rocking the velour Meaning Wave together.
Matching velour.
You're just swagging around. But this way it's important to stay fit and go gym and chop trees and shit like that, because your sons are going to zip up fast, man. And you have to be able to retain dominance in some shape or form. Right, so you have to be able to throw them. Like you have to. I still put him on my shoulders. Right.
Yeah.
He's like that tall, and I'll still put him on my shoulders. Right.
Hell yeah.
And for a bit, not as much as I used to, obviously. You want to enjoy that shit while you can. The little light thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you did the thing where you just keep having them on your shoulders, you'll have to become stronger and stronger and stronger.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I told my wife the other day. I'm like, my goal, because she was like, hey, your arms are looking good. I'm like, oh, thanks for noticing. Like, I've been actually working. I don't work out. I'm horrible at that. And I actually have been working out. And she was like, wow. And I'm like, the reason why is because I want to be able to pick him up. Forever.
That's
for the
literally
rest of the time. I want to be able to pick my son up. And if I can't, then I'm not working out enough. And,
that's literally it.
That's my goal.
Yeah, I was the same. I didn't when he was born. What working out did I do? I would pick up a microphone. You know what I mean? That's about it. I would pick up that microphone. I'd be dancing around on stage and shit. That's it. You know what I mean? You get to a certain point, you're like, yo, if I'm going to be able to keep up and stay ahead of this little motherfucker, I'm going to have to be doing. You got to do stuff.
Yep.
It's very important. Also, you're a god to them. They copy every fucking thing you do. You know what I mean? So if you want them to have a life of health and wealth and all of that, then you have to model that. You have to do everything. Everything you do, they will copy. Everything. It's fucked. It's so unfair. Crazy. It's so unfair. Oh, really? So I don't get to be a dick anymore, ever?
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will start being a dick. Really?
You can't have that.
No, just some bullshit. So, yeah. I was trying to find your.
How old are you?
How old am I?
Yeah.
What year is it? 4. I was born on a 0, so I'm 4.
80?
No,
Born
5.
in
45. No, yeah, I was born in 1980. Exactly.
1980.
In
okay.
May. In May.
May 1980. Nice.
Sorry, I'm holding the phone. By the way, that's very rude to be holding phones. I was trying to find your live stream because I saw a chat flash up and somebody said something nice about the Neville record. But before I got to see what it was, it disappeared. I just wanted to say thank you to them.
I got you right here. It was just when I first heard this album, I talked about it a bunch because I like the energy of it. So this is Believe in Yourself has been listening to it.
Well, you were in the chat when it first came out. You were in the chat. Good, yeah, this is great. This is great.
It was a banger, man. I'm shocked it doesn't have more views, and I know that I've put a dent of views in it myself because
it will. These
really
things take a little.
That.
They take time. When when you're an independent bad motherfucker, not sucking Satan dick and none of that type of things, sometimes take a little bit of time, but they get there. Yeah. You know what I mean? They get there. Like some of the, I got records with the millions of streams that took a while to get going. But things they'll find who they're for.
Exactly.
Because what happens is bad motherfuckers like yourself go, yo, observe, and then someone else will do the same, and then all that will keep. You know what I mean? That's how we rock out here.
There it is.
In the future, because we're in the future, and that's what we do. It's a beautiful thing.
It's the future of the internet, and it's this new thing. Authenticity is a new currency that is more valuable than any ever before, I think.
Yeah, because people got savvy and you can see through it now, or at least enough people can see through it. There's still a lot of people who can't see shit. You see them every day out there.
I never
asking Grok. You know what I mean? These Grok askers. These Grok asking motherfuckers out here. Stop asking that motherfucker. He could tell you what you want to hear or what he wants you to hear. He ain't going to tell you the truth.
It's not accurate. Like, I've seen Grok be wrong multiple times.
When you know about something yourself, I mean, and I was like this because, I worked in journalism for a little while, in music journalism. And so I got to see how these people actually operate. And I would see them writing about things that I knew intimately about because I was there. And I would see them making shit the fuck up, or just straight out lying, or just being dumb and not understanding what happened. And that was humans. Why do you think that large language models that aren't even really robots in the way you've been trained to think about robots from movies, they aren't that. Why do you think they should be trusted or anything at all? Grok askers out of here. But back to your point, you are correct. Authenticity is a certainly kind of currency now. People are demanding it. People are expecting it. I know the way my son and his homies interact and the way they play and what they're interested in. They're not interested in being dictated the story. Yeah. They want to be involved in the story and telling the story and creating the story. Printing press did this to us, right? There was a time we were all involved in the story. We told the story around the campfire. You'd drop one verse. I'd drop a verse. Nana would drop a verse. She'd add her source to it, right? We'd all drop a verse. Then the printing press comes along and it goes, right, the story's now here in this thing, and this is the story. So you go, okay, I'll read the story on my own. It's a nice story. I like the story. Then Disney comes along. They start buying the stories. And they go, now we own the story, and now we're going to put the story back out, and we've changed it. And if you don't like it, fuck you, right? And you don't get to be involved in the telling of this story. And it's not even your story anymore. It's my story now. Fuck you and your whole culture. And the problem is the story encapsulates the whole knowledge of the tribe, of the people, of the culture. Right. That's the purpose of mythology, right? Is to pack in all these thousands of years of stuff that we've learned into something small that a child can understand, like Pinocchio, which has all the lessons a boy needs to know in this one little story, right? Disney comes along, so they buy that. They make it all creepy and weird. But really kids now don't care. They're not interested. They don't want to be told the story. They're making their own stories in Roblox and Minecraft and whatever the fuck. They're making their own games. They're making their own narratives. They're inventing something new that is somewhere beyond a movie and a video game, that is going to be the next sort of art form, the internet's art form, the thing that could only exist within this that we were talking about earlier, right? You remix, you change, you bring everything into this thing, and then eventually this thing creates something new that couldn't
Yep.
have existed before, that can only exist within this. And that's usually around the moment that the next thing comes along as
That's a
as a
good point.
medium, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
To go, and then that will go live in that new
process
medium.
starts all over again.
And that's
What do you
what's
think
happening.
the next medium's going to be?
Well, it's probably AI. It's probably like some aspect of that. It's not necessarily like a thing. Like we've seen it.
Okay.
So we had the poem, then we had the book, then we had the movie screen, then we had the television. We had the radio,
Right.
television, internet. Right. So the thing that comes after the internet, I think about it a bit like the way we think about how we measure dimensions. So first dimension, then second dimension, comic
Okay,
book,
that's a
third
good way of
dimension,
putting it.
us, fourth dimension, time, because time
Yeah.
contains everything that was in that. That means is another way of measuring everything, right? So then what would be the next dimension? That would be the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension would contain everything previously. So the fifth dimension would be what Grant Morrison called idea space or potentiality. It's like everything that could happen within that, right? So the way Neil Goddard talks about sort of, the idea of creating, the way it talks about creating in the Bible, the way all these people talk, you're drawing from something that exists in 5D space and bringing it into the 4D space, which is time, is one way of thinking about it, right? So it all exists out there in potentiality. If you write a song, Stevie Wonder always talks about, like, he didn't write the song, he opened himself up to God and God wrote it through him, right? He was a conduit for something that existed. He was able, with his skill, to arrange in third dimensional reality and within fourth dimensional reality something that existed in potentiality, right? The statue of David by Michelangelo was in that rock, just waiting for someone to come along and tease it out, tap that motherfucker out, right? He was always in there, waiting.
Some of my songs I'll play and then I'll sit and look at like the structure of the song and I'm like, how the hell did I even like figure this song out? Like, how did I create that? And then those are the songs that I wrote in like that.
Yeah,
they
they're
just
the real
kind of-
ones.
I like wrote it and I was like, well shit, I just wrote a new song. Like, damn, all right, that was fast. Some songs I'm still working on 15 years later and they probably will never get finished because the energy isn't there.
I don't know.
But yes.
It's doable, right? It took Leonard Cohen
maybe.
was it Leonard Cohen? I think spent 15 years writing The Future, and The Future is a perfect song. And I'm always very much the kind. It's like that old Bruce Lee, don't think, feel. Like allow a thing to come into being. That's usually the best thing to do. Lil Wayne certainly freestyled his best records. They just popped out. And, he didn't think about it for 2 seconds. A lot of the best things I've done have happened in that manner. Doesn't mean that the exact inverse way of creating also doesn't have benefit. They're kind of different things. And it's harder to do one of them in one way than the other. But it's hard to turn yourself, because you have to make yourself very skilled, right? To be able to take that thing that exists already in idea space in 5D and just allow it to come through you. Through the Byzantine conduit of your personal experience, your tastes, everything, and then through the skill that you've developed in your being, right? You've turned yourself into this incredible machine that can execute, whether you're in your terms as a musician, right? So the better a musician you are in a way, like hypothetically, you should be therefore better able to transmute that thing that exists out there into this place. But then what will happen oftentimes is the technicality will get in the way of that thing. Some people get too technically competent. They're thinking too much about music theory and all this type of stuff that will get in the way of that pure expression even being able to happen in the first place, which is why a lot of bands like early records are often better when they didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
It was just the music.
Yeah, when you don't know what you're doing, like you can do incredible things.
That's a good point.
Because you're not getting in the way of yourself.
It's funny you say that. I started playing piano when my wife came to me. I was sitting on the couch and she came and handed me this envelope and I opened it and it was just the birth, the pregnancy stick.
Yeah.
And it had the double lines, and I was just like, holy shit. And the next day I started playing piano. I had never played piano before, but my wife has pianos all over the house. She's been playing her whole life. And I don't know why I just had this energy to play piano. And now I know chords. I can now I can transfer I've been playing guitar for 20 years though. So like I know chords and stuff. So now I know chords on the piano. So I actually can transfer a lot of my own music and like play stuff. But for the first like 6 months, I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just finding stuff. And my wife would say, that is like, what is that song? It's a beautiful song. And I'm like, I don't know, it's this. And she would record it. And she's played a few of these recordings back. And I'm like, how the hell did I even do that? And it's because I didn't know what I was doing. And I almost think I ruined it for myself when I brought my guitar stuff on there, because I kind of locked it in. Like, I don't know. It's something about like,
there's an avenue of exploration that happens when you're learning music or learning an instrument.
Yeah.
And you kind of, it's kind of like getting too powered up in a video game too early or something like that, right?
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Like you miss out on certain exploratory fun aspects that won't happen. Like you're not going to like blow up the wrong thing with the exploding golf ball in Hitman if you know what it's for. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or,
okay. That's a good way of putting it.
So you kind of have to.
Chat? I know he knows what you're talking about there.
I just started playing that game the other day. It's awesome. It's really fun.
That's a good one.
It's a lot of life is unlearning, and you find this. You know what I mean? It's like this is why I didn't send my kids to school, because you go to school and they smash out of you all this stuff that you're born knowing that's really useful stuff, and then people spend the rest of their lives trying to relearn the stuff that was smashed out of them at school. You know what I mean? It's this kind of, so you're kind of unlearning the bad stuff they implanted into you and trying to relearn the stuff you already had. And people be wasting their whole lives doing that. It's like not necessary, you know? And there's things you can do, like to be, all of that stuff we were talking about is that's being in the zone, right? Where the truly magical songs just happen. Yep. You're in the zone. And the zone is the fifth dimension, is one way of thinking about it. That's that place.
Your third eye to view the fifth dimension.
Well, it's the place. It's going to the place. You're accessing the place, right? So you think about it like if you keep. The way I think about it is like if you just keep doing stuff every day, you keep working every day. You're doing it. Like some people be like, I'm waiting for inspiration. I'm waiting for the muse or whatever. It's like, don't wait for the muse. Go there. And if you do it every day, then you're in that zone place. If you don't stop, there's a part of you that's in there and has access to that place. So it's like you're going up there every day, and the muses, they will notice. And after a while, they'll be like, all right, that motherfucker keeps coming up in here. Let's give him some of the good shit, right? And they'll crack open the box of genius. They'll crack open the tablets of glory, right? Yeah, and they'll give you some of that shit.
They'll shift the spotlight over on, let's just give the spotlight for a little bit. Right,
let's just splash him with some of that actual divinity, the real shit, you know? That's so you have to do that. So the more you can be in the zone, the more you'll have access to that stuff. And the zone is a place, and it's the place where you have 1 foot in competence and 1 foot in chaos, as Dr. Peterson used to talk about. We're talking about something slightly different, but it's the same thing. It's like what I would realize when I was DJing, and I used to DJ in Hollywood like 5 nights a week. And the moments where you have truly transcendent experiences are the moments where you're not quite sure if it's going to fuck up or not. Like when you know, I'll play this record, people will love it. You don't get the transcendent experience you get when you're like, if I do this and this could fuck up, but it could be really cool. And it goes the fuck off, right? It's like you have the technical competence to be able to be like fucking jumping around, squiggling things, and fuck it, I've just thought of this idea. I'm going to pull in that bit of that record and put that there and just do it. And it works and it's amazing. A moment of, and everybody feels this thing because they feel that energy of the unpredictability and the potential chaos. It could have all gone fucking wrong. You're like out there on the edge of perhaps falling off that chasm, right? And those are those amazing moments. And that's like you apply that to anything, certainly anything creative, is if you can get yourself into that position, that's where you'll write the great song. That's where you'll have the transcendent moment. That's where you'll have the brilliant idea or whatever. And you can arrange your life so you're in that space a lot, right?
It's a choice.
And there's ways of doing that. You can specifically, I remember Graham Coxon from Blur talking about how he wrote Song 2, which is the one they play at football matches. Ding, 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 woo! That was like their third or fourth album. And he'd basically got too good at playing guitar. He got too good and too musical and too competent and too music theory guy. And he couldn't write anything amazing. He was all scared and freaked out. So what he did is he taped his hand up. So he couldn't make complex chord shapes. So he just taped his hand up so he could just do he could only do basic stuff. And he was kind of held back. He had this limitation on him, right? And that's how he wrote most of that album. So he was able to sort of take himself back to the state of being like an early punk rock type guy by sort of limits, by not being able to do the virtuoso stuff. So that forced him into this mode, and that's how he wrote one of their biggest records. And yeah,
so he got too into the music theory rabbit hole, and he was too complex.
He's too good. He was too complex. He's too Steve Vai. He's too wibbity vibbity vibbity. Sometimes you just got to go bam 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 bam. Right? That's what. Yeah, you can't go woohoo if you go. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So you got to be able to. You got to make room in your life for the woohoo. So the way you do that is you impose limitations and you introduce into whatever you're doing something new that you don't understand. So in the context of DJing, I'd always make sure there was a bunch of records that I wasn't sure if they're going to work or not. I would be, okay, I'll play like 60% stuff that I know works, but I'll force myself to play stuff that I don't know if it'll work or not. So there's always an element of danger. When I'm making a record, I always introduce a new instrument or a new piece of software or a new technique that I don't know if it worked, that I'm having to learn on the job. So there's always an element in everything I create of some aspect of it that I'm not fully competent at yet. So you have the foundational of very competent with completely incompetent. So there's always room for a massive fuck up, and that keeps you in that place.
That's basically like having a crow throwing itself down the roof.
Exactly.
On every album.
Exactly that.
That's
why people like hallucinogens. That's why people eat mushrooms. That's why people get drunk. That's why people get out of their head because they want to get out of their head.
Yeah.
That's why they call it that. But there's ways of doing it that don't ruin your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what you got to do.
Point.
It's important. It's necessary and useful for humans to do it. But we tend to fall into these traps of doing it in ways that ruin our lives. Whether it's alcohol or shoplifting, whatever.
Well, it becomes a habit instead of the thing that just breaks up the habits or the mundane.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You watch out for that shit.
People get complacent with it. Wow. Let me read this here from Shadav the Vedmak for 10 Canadian. Says, crazy to see you interviewing Akira the Don. My first time hearing Akira was on Newgrounds, where One Chop animated his song Hypocrite. Hope you both have a great day. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was before YouTube. See, in my early days, I was putting out animated music videos on Newgrounds.
Wow.
Before there was a YouTube. And putting out mixtapes before people put out online mixtapes. If you look on Wikipedia, it says the first online mixtape was Ghostface. And that Ghostface tape came out 3 years after ATD1, which was my mixtape. And a year and a half or 2 years after the head of press at Interscope rang me up asking me how I was making my website and doing all the things I was doing because they wanted to have their guys all start doing it. So anyway.
Are you telling me...
I've been around. Shouts out to Newgrounds.
Wait. Wikipedia is wrong about something?
Imagine that, right? Something that you personally know about, and then you go look it up on Wikipedia, and it's clearly wrong. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Yeah.
Wow. Lord of the Reefer 2 says, why would anyone do drugs when they could just mow a lawn?
Exactly.
I love mowing my lawn.
Exactly. Do you know that record?
I got it down.
Do you know that record?
No.
Do you know that reference? Yeah, that's one of my records. It samples Hank Hill from King
Lord
of the Hill, talking about the joy. And that was when I was living in Texas, and I had a lawn, and I fucking loved that lawn, and I really understood that moment, and so I made that song. So,
I love that. Yeah, I really enjoyed you on Normal World. And
shout out to Normal World all day.
Shout out to Normal World and
all day.
That's when you came on my radar, and I liked your energy, and it wasn't until Stop Trying came out that I was like, all right, what the fuck am I doing? I need to really start listening to more. Meaning Wave, and now it's on my playlist, of like songs that I listen to. So, and my son's listening to it too, which is I think is great for him. I mean, he doesn't know what it means yet, but it's getting in there.
Yeah, and one day
But
he
I'm
will
working my way
understand.
backwards now, and you're constantly pumping shit out. It's hard to go back when you're constantly, dropping new stuff, and it's great. I
The
love
whole
the
idea, I always wanted to create a universe for people to get lost in. That was always the idea initially.
oh, nailed it.
And so we're now getting to the point, like, I don't know, I always want to be doing a lot more. There's going on 700 tracks on DSPs now. So if you follow the official Meaning Wave playlist, and there's an official Meaning Wave playlist on Spotify and Apple and all these places. If you listen to that, you can put that on and it will play for over 2 days straight without repeating.
It's amazing.
So, it's getting there. You're like, oh fuck, just 2 days, is that it?
No, that's an incredible amount of time. No, that's over 48 hours of music.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
that's a ridiculous amount of music.
And that's just the stuff that's on DSPs.
No, that sounds like a lot to me. Okay, I'm just saying. Yeah. Kofifa Fitch for 20 says, been missing all content for almost 30 days. Too busy. Anything happened lately? I miss anything good on Forbidden Frontier? Oh man. Jeez, what's happened lately? Goodness sakes. I honestly researched so much random stuff through all of my avenues that I don't even know how to answer that, because, from discoveries of like new skulls in Turkey, to DNA finding that the original Native Americans might have actually just been white. There's some just such a random hodgepodge stuff that I researched, and then I haven't really even been online that much because I'm trying to, it's beautiful outside.
Yeah, what happened about the those things underneath the pyramids?
So
what happened to that? Did that turn out to be bullshit? What happened there?
No, I know all about it. It's called synthetic aperture radar. It's a new. It's not actually a new technology. It's actually new software that uses different satellite data to analyze what's underneath the ground.
Yeah. So I'm aware of the process. The last time I checked in, it was coming out. Everyone was all excited. Hypothetically, everything everyone was saying for years was true.
Right.
Tunnels and tubes and what have you. And they were going to have an announcement, and they were going to show some concrete proof. And then that's the point that I lost track of the story.
Okay, so those 3 scientists, the Italians, they're actually going to be in America in Greensboro for the Cosmic Summit to do an English version of what they said or what they presented. So they're and that's in about, I think, 2 weeks, maybe.
Okay, so we're still waiting on that one then.
Yeah, and but really, what happened was the 3D renderings were completely wrong, and everyone jumped on the 3D renders like, oh, huge thing. It's not LiDAR, Moonshine. It is different than LiDAR. It's SAR, synthetic aperture radar is what it stands for. But it's fascinating stuff because it's not new. Oil companies use it to find oil pockets under the earth. So it's like it's been used for many years, decades actually. But they're streamlining and using a software to analyze different. They haven't released it, so I don't really know exactly too much. But I think there's definitely something under there. In fact, there is Yosef Awan is a friend of. Do you know Uncharted X? Are you familiar with that channel on YouTube?
No.
It's essentially someone who's very into Egypt and ancient technologies. He's a great channel. Ben from Uncharted X is a good friend of our channel. And his good buddy, his father was featured on this show called The Pyramid Code. It used to be on Netflix. They long took it off. But he was an Egyptian historian. And in The Pyramid Code, he talks about how he used to run around as a kid. Like there was no security, 80 years ago in Egypt, you could run around everywhere. You could run around in the tunnels underneath the pyramid, underneath the Sphinx. There's this whole network, basically like an underground city. And no one seems to really know that that's actually what I think that's what the SAR data is actually discovering. It's this huge network that's underneath that.
Well, wouldn't that be the top
lost.
level of it, though? Because people have been talking. I've been aware of people talking about that for decades.
The
The
tunnels,
data
yeah.
suggested it was going way, way, way deeper than the stuff that we knew about.
Something is. Yeah,
Yeah.
something is going down. Something is there. We don't know exactly what it is.
You
From
know
the
how it's true,
actual
right?
radar.
The way you know
Sorry?
it's true, or the way you know that there is something real, is that they put Zowie Hawass on fucking JRE to run ops.
To try to debunk it.
So, like, that guy has been running ops on stuff as long as I've been paying attention. Since the late 90s, I've seen him. And he only pops up at, like, cultural moments of significance. He's not out there all the time. And he goes on JRE, of all things, like the biggest thing you could really go on at this moment is that says something. That's how you know there's something going on. Like, you don't know what it is, but there's something.
It's backfired, though, because a few days later, Joe said that was the worst interview he's ever done.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. I mean, it was painful to watch. Because I know, it's the same thing. Like, I know all about the stuff. And then
so when he's on that...
talking about it, and I'm like, dude, you've been there for 50 years, and you're lying. You're straight up lying about all the stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, dude.
Which is his job and always has been his job. And it's amazing that it's still his job.
I know, it's true.
Like, 25 years later, after Robert Duvall and all that type of stuff, like... I saw a thing. This maybe you're going to Egypt with some of the. Is Quarterblack going? Is that what it's for?
Going?
Yeah. So I saw that.
Forbidden Frontier.
So when I was first researching that stuff in like, I don't know, like 99 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Robert Duvall, I believe, is it Robert Duvall? He did a book with Graham Hancock, and he was one of the main guys.
Schock?
Nah, Robert, what the fuck? He died a couple years back. He wrote one of the first books I read. So he was doing that. And I was trying to go on one. I nearly went on one, and there was some reason, I can't remember what it was. I nearly fucking went on one, and I was really excited. And I've been researching it and stuff, and it was him and Graham Hancock and this other guy doing it, and that was back in like 99, 2000 or something like that. Was doing this thing where you go to the pyramids, and you have this guided tour, and they would show you all this stuff, and they'd tell you about all the things they knew and this, that, and the other. And then I saw you guys were doing what I was like, holy, I'm so happy that concept.
Graham's doing it
existing.
now. You know how much his tour is?
Probably more than it was then.
$14,000.
Yeah, that's my guy. I might hit him up. That's my homie.
Well, Graham?
Yeah, I've done some records with Graham. And,
cool. You guys are from similar areas, right? I mean, he lives in Bath now, but
Bath is like posh compared to where I was from. But like,
I bet.
I did a song with sampling him reading from Thingy Bob. I forget the name of it now. Ancient Egyptian text. No, he's reading one of those Thoth stories.
Ancient text.
Yeah, he's reading one of them Thoth stories where it's like.
Cool. All right, look, I need to just. I need to listen to this like as soon as.
Yeah, that's a real good one. But then I did it. So I did that.
What is it called? I needed to bring it up.
What is it called? I got too many records. How am I forgetting everything?
What a great problem to have. And I guess I could just search Graham, right?
You could search Graham. Lament of Hermes.
The Lament of Hermes.
The Lament of Hermes. So that was the first one, and he really liked it, and he posted the video on his Facebook, and he tweeted it and stuff. And then we got in an email conversation, and then I did a whole album sampling.
There's a lot. Holy shit. Okay, there's a bunch of stuff that you did with him. Oh, that's
Lament of Hermes was the first one, and then I did an album sampling his band TED Talk, which he really liked. And he was last month or something like that, he suddenly went on a spree of like posting videos from it every day for a week for whatever reason.
Of yours?
Yes.
That's cool. That's awesome.
He's great, and he's really kind of like pro the work. He really likes it and is very open to,
That doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, he in the last special he did on Netflix, he talks about going down and doing ayahuasca with like a real person to like do it, to open up your mind, to like, be able to be open. And I'm like, that's you saying that doesn't surprise me at all, that he's down for the culture.
Yeah, the album was about basically his ayahuasca experience, and It was partly about that. It's called The War on Culture.
Cool.
Not The War on Culture, sorry. War on Consciousness, which is pretty much the same thing in this day and age.
That's a good point.
And he talks about his ayahuasca experiences. He talks about one of the messages he got from trying ayahuasca was, "You smoke too much weed, stop smoking weed," which I thought was quite funny. There's a great song called "Permanently Stoned," where he's just talking about how he just used to be fucking, smoke weed every day guy. He was basically Nate Dogg. He was like Nate Dogg in '93.
I was the same.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Right. It's funny that when you look back on this period, a period of being in a green fog for an extended amount of time, not being able to do simple things like answer emails. It's incredible.
Oh my.
Anyway, that's a great album. Musically, that's a great album. It's very expansive and expressive. It has a lot of really good guitar solos. But yeah, shout out Graham Hancock all day.
Shout out to Graham
And it's really
Hancock,
cool that you're doing that. Anyway, that made me smile.
So wait, have you not gone to Egypt yet?
Nah. Do you know there was a period I nearly, and again something happened that fucked it up. I was going to go help dig up Göbekli Tepe in 2002 or whatever it was.
Oh man,
I was in touch with all those guys, and they were doing this whole thing. Anyway, yeah.
You should join us, dude. We're going in November.
Wow. Yeah, November. That's wild.
It's like $3,000 for the
I
full
saw
package.
It's
very reasonable.
It is very reasonable.
Yeah.
Where are you sleeping?
I'm going to be sharing a hotel room with Quarter Black Garrett.
Nice.
Yeah. Those aren't pillows.
That's going to be crazy for you because that's very different. It's going to be very different to Sweden.
Oh, true. Yeah. Well,
and you get to see the homies. You get to see the homies.
I went to London for the first time. 2023 now. Fuck, feels like yesterday, but it's a year and a half ago. But we all went. Nerdrotic had a meetup, and me and Quarter Black shared a hotel in the middle of London, and that was badass. And
whereabouts in London were you hanging out?
We weren't hanging out anywhere close to where our hotel was, but we went and checked out the museum and looked at all the stuff that Britain stole. And then we went to the castle. Well, actually, I'd say
safekeeping. They're looking after it. Exactly. Preservation.
Yeah.
That's like saying I'm stealing all these movies that you can't stream. Right? I'm not stealing them. I'm preserving them. I'm preserving the cinematic legacy of these motherfuckers.
I say that jokingly because that's that's what everyone says, and I just think it's hilarious.
Also, it's not everyone, by the way. It's so easy for us to say, "Oh, that's what everyone says." Nah, it's what a small band of noisy communist retards say that happen to get their nonsense amplified. But regular people don't say shit like that. Regular people don't think that. We're still stuck in this weird little paradigm of thinking and saying shit like that. I catch myself doing it. That's not what everybody thinks. It's what a couple of weirdos think. And some noisy weirdos. That's right, because words is power. Words create things. And
wow, what dude, I sat in front of the Rosetta Stone for like 20 minutes just in wonder. Because I've heard about it and seen it in, I mean, I have a bunch of like Egypt books behind me, and like that was such a cool piece of understanding that, like that connection point of language that basically just, oh man, 4,000 years, 5,000 years, who knows how long that's been transferred through. But yeah, I'm excited to go to Egypt, man. I love it. I can't wait. I'm a traveler. But Lord of the Reefer 5 says, I needed this interview and it found me. Great advice and some reassurance. No idea what I'm doing, and I've been having a lot of fun making music. Long Walks Music on the sites. It's mostly adequate. Lord of the Reef, you didn't add that, but I wanted to give you your tag, your proper tag, as you know. He is Long Walks Music. He's a musician.
Colin Wilson, that was it. Did you ever read From Atlantis to the Sphinx by Colin Wilson?
No, but I like that.
Colin Wilson kind of like old world pilled me, like in like fucking 98 or something. Huh? Yeah, he's really good. He's dead now as well.
Colin Wilson. But, okay.
And he wrote some really interesting.
Robert Duvall is an actor, isn't he?
Yeah, it's not Robert Duvall. It's Robert fucking other guy, bald guy.
Colin Wilson.
But this isn't that guy. This is a
okay,
different guy.
It's
So
different.
Colin
Okay.
Wilson kind of predates Hancock slightly, and Colin Wilson wrote about a lot of sort of mildly out there stuff, but in a very kind of like detective fashion. He was like hard-boiled detective, and he wrote a lot about the idea of peak experience, the idea of that, and he was very interested in like the sort of reality of Atlantis and how that connected to the funding of Egypt and all that sort of thing. Back when things were in books before they went on the internet.
Right.
What's that?
What do you think about Atlantis? What's your theory?
Well, it clearly existed and is clearly the civilization that was wiped out by the flood. Yep. So we got rebooted. We had a reboot. We've had a number of reboots. Just in mainstream. The mainstream idea about history acknowledges that there was one in the Bronze Age. Humanity got put down to like 6% or something of what it was, almost overnight type thing, and had to like come back over a long period of time. So everyone knows the flood happened. The flood is in every civilizational record. It's datable, and the civilization, the sort of maritime traveling civilization of Atlantis were obviously the ones who set up Egypt in the first place, and they're the ones who came along and then helped reboot the new civilization by giving people the knowledge that had been. Did we go back?
You're cutting out.
Oh, good.
Wow, now you look like a low poly, like a bald, bearded guy from. He's Frozen for everyone, right? I would just you're if you can hear me, you are currently frozen, solid, and I can't hear you anymore. Rumble won't let you send any more rants. Oh, that's lame. Diana Francisco, I see your chat. I hope he comes back. I don't know what's going on with his connection. It must be something going on in Mexico.
We're back.
I hear you.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Oh, you're moving again. You're still very low
poly.
Like you look like you're 8-bit.
Oh,
we
good.
need the CRTVs. Okay. Now you're coming in. Okay,
I guess he'll come back.
Okay. Yeah. There
what
you
what were we talking about? Old shit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Atlantis,
yeah. So reboots. Yeah. So
reboots.
Yeah. So the flood was a reboot. That was a reset. One way of thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not one way of thinking about it. It's what happened, technically.
Definitely.
And we seem to have these things on a kind of cycle every sort of 3,000 years or whatever it is. I can't remember the exact number.
6,000 to 12,000.
Is it that long? Because I feel like... Is that what it is? Anyway, we're due another one soon, according to certain schools of thought. Certain schools of thought have it down to being on May 16th, 2040, specifically. The next one, which is why they're building bunkers. This is an idea. Man. So the reason they're building bunkers, they're not worried about nukes and they're not worried about people rioting or whatever. It's like actual flood type calamity, things falling out the sky, and they'll need to hide for that.
If the poles are shifting, and if it's because of the pole shifts, and if that's what happens, and the cyclical nature is every 6,000 or 12,000 years the poles shift, and that's what causes the calamity. Like, who knows? I mean, Elon Musk has the boring company. He's boring holes under the ground. It's probably not for just autonomous tunnels. It's probably because he wants to be able to all these bunkers to have access to each other, so that they're not just stranded. And I don't think he's trying to colonize Mars. Maybe he is. That would be great, but maybe he's just trying to go, hey...
It depends if you believe in space. If you believe... You know what I mean? It depends on your
that's a whole
space
other conversation.
You know what I mean? Ah, ha, 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 ha. Very funny. Yeah, exactly. It's wonderful. Um, depends how
Hey,
fake and gay you think space might be, and it
Diana
depends how.
Francisco for 5 says, "Thank you, Adam, for having Akira on. It's been a good conversation. Hugs to you, chat, and Akira. God bless." Thank you, Diana.
Hey,
Um,
thanks, Diana.
hey, listen, I normally do about an hour, and we're about an hour and a half in, and
Boom. There you go.
you are fascinating. You're someone that I told my wife that I was interviewing. She was like, "Holy, that's so freaking cool!" And I'm like, I was thoroughly looking forward to this, chatting with you, and you're just as fascinating as I didn't even know what to expect. But you are such a fascinating character. I loved the conversation with you. You are always welcome back on my show. I'd love to have you back on to continue chatting about life and anything, So I'm
Boom.
going to
Yes,
continue
likewise. Anytime, hit
listening.
me up. And I'd been meaning when you DM me about this, like I said, I'd been meaning to hit you up and just thank you for your support and for spreading the good word of Meaning Wave. It is very much appreciated. Without
Absolutely.
people such as yourself spreading the good word of Meaning Wave, we are like that tree that falls in the forest with no eardrum to translate the vibration into a sound. You know what I mean? Fuck, what
It
was
is
the
a
point of
pleasure.
that?
I believe in it. I'm a musician, and I recognize. Well, I'm not just a musician. I'm someone who wants to see the world going in the right direction. And when I hear your messages that you promote via your music with it's not just like the message, it's a good vibe too. It
Mm.
feels good. The energy of the songs are really good. So it's not just the message, you're amplifying it up in such a good positive way. It's like it could be on the background, you could be listening to it and actually, engaging it, and either way, it's great. And I think that more people need to hear it. I meant that before, and I really do mean that. And so I will keep promoting it because I really do enjoy your music. So thank you. Grimm celebrating 9 months. Space is fake and gay, and Akira is epic. Well, you're damn right about
And now my
one of
buttons are
those
working.
things.
Are you, do
Now
you,
your
do you
buttons
have
working?
that thing where you try to hit your button and they don't work? And then you're like, oh, I unplugged it because it was making a feedback noise. Do you ever get that? I hate that.
No, I don't have that problem. My buttons always work. My wife tells me all the time my buttons are always constantly working.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. Long may that continue.
Isn't it? Yeah, I agree with that. Akira,
Boom.
thank you very much for joining. I really
Hey, thank
appreciate
you,
it. In the
brother. Speak
description
soon.
down, of course, yes, thank you. In the description, by the way, everyone, are his links. Go check it out. His link tree is there, and go check out his page, meaningwave.com. I'm actually gonna get myself a new hoodie because that shit is hot. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. Peace.